Part of us, weren't they? Look at this wonderful stuff, for example. There are excerpts from, these are excerpts from a 1955 Pacific Films production called Cookery Nook.
The picturesque surroundings, smooth lawns, calm ponds and carefully tended flower beds create an atmosphere of harmony that has made the factory one of the city's showplaces. Inside, streamlined machines manufacture the cans that will travel from one end of the country to the other. From remote sheep stations in the South Island to a lighthouse on North Cape. From the kitchen of a suburban home to the galleys of ships at sea. The raw materials for one of the factory's principal products, baking powder, come from overseas. Cream of tartar, or tartaric acid, is made from the crust which forms around the inside of wine vats while wine is being made. Pure grape cream of tartar provides the acid, to which an alkali, bicarbonate of soda, must be added. Mixed in the right proportions, good baking powder will result. Constant checks are made on the purity of the ingredients, which pass through very fine sieves to sift out any lumps or fibers. For 20 to 30 minutes, the powder is mixed swiftly together by machinery. Samples are taken from different parts of the mixture and sent to the factory laboratory to be tested. The chemist checks both purity and rising power. When heat and liquid are applied, the powder foams and swells, and the accuracy of the mixture of acid and alkali can be exactly measured by the quantity of carbonic acid gas given off. When the powder is used in a cake, the cook can be confident that the quantity of gas is enough to make the cake rise well, but not so much that the cake is dry and full of holes. The visiting party inspect the packing line. The empty tin is held on a revolving spiral so that almost exactly the correct weight goes into each tin. To make certain, the tin is weighed and checked before it starts on its next journey to the labellers. As it's essential for the sensitive powder to remain airtight, the little tins are sealed and labelled by hand. For housewives intent on making the most of their cooking, a knowledge of the essential ingredients they must use makes cooking success not so much a mysterious secret.
The women you saw filing through all dressed up with their hats on with the stern women from Rangiora on a tour, I think. Well, they started knocking it down, this famous old building, yesterday, and that's when the machines with their scoops and their scrapers on the end showed up for the start of the big wipeout, and we've seen enough of the old buildings disappear around the country, haven't we? We've heard the ineffectual nonsense talked by those who should by now have the means to stop it happening. Well, today we went to the old Edmonds building in Ferry Road in Christchurch to raise a bit of a storm. Well, here it is. This is where they turned out that famous baking powder which was always sure to rise. But it looks as though the famous frontage is sure to fall. Not without a last protest from us, we said, and we weren't alone. In a road containing half a dozen service stations, why would Mobil want to build another one on this site? And what happened to Briley's, who gave the site to Mobil? The local school thought they were on the point of saving the building and turning it into a theatre.
Initially, we thought we were doing quite well. They were very positive and seemed to like the idea. They believed too that it could probably accommodate Mobil if they had to, though quite frankly I don't think we need yet another petrol station in this area. But then very suddenly things seemed to happen, and we were not even allowed to meet with them and discuss it, and the thing was sold.
T.J. Edmund built the factory. He was a great old bloke. He introduced the 40-hour week to New Zealand. He looked after his workers right through the Depression. He gave them beautiful grounds to relax in. The gardens, the prize-winning gardens, are threatened now as well.
It's been beautifully landscaped. And during the time, it's won just about every garden competition it's been eligible for. And another service station is not going to enhance the environment in any way. There's already 7 service stations down Ferry Road at this point of time. And it's just the loss of something that is beautiful and has been developed over the years.
I mean, this, apart from Christchurch Cathedral, would be the most famous Christchurch building through the rest of the country. We've all grown up looking at the facade of this building, and it's going, and you're letting it go.
Yeah, and I accept all that, and I'm saying that a big chunk of it, because it's not listed in the district scheme, is the council's fault.
So because of a bungle on one or another council, we're losing the Edmonds building. That's what you're saying.
We're not having the chance to talk about saving it, yeah.
Do you think that Briley's and perhaps Mobil have shown a complete lack of regard for its historical significance?
I don't think they recognise any historical significance for the building.
Have they therefore shown a lack of regard for
Well,
it?
I guess you could say that, yes.
How do you think Briley's and Mobil compare to TJ Edmonds?
Well, look at the way TJ Edmonds was concerned for his employees and their environment and their whole life, I guess, and he had this paternalistic attitude towards them, didn't he?
What does this tell you about Mobil's attitude to the environment?
To the environment. I'm not sure I know what it tells us about that.
I was very upset when the shorter rise sign came down. It's got a lot of family history that we're all very proud of.
Well, we had one last chance to stop this sacrilege, but it involved a certain amount of risk. As a matter of fact, a large amount of risk. Up onto the roof where all the great machinery, the great devices of demolition are doing their dastardly work. Look over here, already the ruination of what was once very grand, and look on the floor. Look at this stuff. Baking powder, very good baking powder. You could probably take a bit home, it'd rise up just nice. Dead machinery. Oh, it's a precarious sort of a place to be, really, to be coming up here high above this Edmonds building where there are holes everywhere. You could, I suppose, with a slight lack of attention, fall into. Have a bit of sympathy for the building, mate. The building fighting back. This is what an oil company, you see, is quite prepared to do to put a gas station up. I mean, it's not like you've got to drive 100 miles to get a tank full of petrol, is it? And that's how they go, and very soon there'll be nothing left at all. See that? Well now, what about the people who are bringing down the sure-to-rise building? The developers, Briley Properties, wouldn't give us an interview today. Mobil Oil, who might build some service station on the site, they say it's nothing to do with them. Go and talk to Briley's, they said. So we did, but they still didn't want to talk.
No, okay. Yeah, Mark Sainsbury, Miss Fallon. We spoke earlier on about the... Hey, listen. Can we just get some statement from the company? Nothing? No comment? Nothing at all.
Disappointing sort of an attitude, really, isn't it? And that's been kind. You'd think that something might have been saved, even the facade. You'd think that Mobil, Briley's or whoever could have done that with a bit of thought, a bit of decency, with a bit of feeling of owing their customers something. Could have saved the facade, but they didn't. Lest we forget, that's Holmes tonight.